Sir, good to have you. See you a lot lately. We have another ICE-involved shooting last night, another fully justified shooting, a terrible situation that officer found himself in. We've seen yet another day of very violent protests after a very violent night last night. I just want to start by asking, do you think that this is this the new norm in this country? Is this how immigration, customs is going to have to handle doing a very essential job? Are they going to have to do that while also handling violent radical agitators? That's just part of the gig?
Hey, Rob, good seeing you again. Yeah, unfortunately, that's what we're having to deal with right now, right? This day in, day out, you keep seeing this, impediment, this agitation of officers and agents out there just doing their mission. And unfortunately, it's becoming the norm. But what I got to say is, you look at Minnesota where you have elected officials just ramping up this rhetoric, where you have elected officials saying to go out there and protest ICE and to, impede us and, videotape what we're doing, instead of trying to bring down the noise themselves, instead of saying, hey, peacefully protest, but ICE is out there doing a law enforcement mission. You don't hear that. But if you go to other states, right, if you go to Texas, Nevada, you don't see that going on. And we're out there daily making the same number of arrests, getting the same criminal illegal aliens. Yet here we are in Minnesota actually arresting some of the worst of the worst, and we're having to deal with what you're seeing on the screen right there every night. And our officers being attacked.
Yeah, it's purely the result of politics. This is all some kind of a game to either cover up what's going on in Minneapolis, to try and throw the attention somewhere else. It's despicable what this is, and we're going to talk about that. You had an agent last night, attacked. A couple guys just come out of a home and just start beating him with shovels and broomsticks. And you had a state senator in Minnesota named Bobby Joe Champion go on CNN and say that he thinks that's fine, that he thinks that his constituents should be allowed. These are the three right here. Look like lovely people, right? That his constituents should be allowed to just attack federal agents with weapons. You had a state senator from Minnesota say that on CNN last night.
It's sad. I can't tell you how many times you and I have talked and everything. Just these comments that elected officials make, they're just they're unbelievable. Here you have, if you look at the whole totality of the situation, ICE officers and special agents were out making an arrest. And to be clear, we are out in Minnesota because the state of Minnesota and Governor Walz has released over 470 criminal aliens since President Trump took office back into the community. So that's what they're doing. They attempt to apprehend a subject. There's a foot chase. The agent tackles the subject, and you have individuals come out with shovels and brooms and attack that officer. It's uncalled for, and I hate to say it, but when you have elected officials like this state senator say that, it fuels this radical group that's out there attacking officers and agents. And I have to put the blame on elected officials.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're watching the video of your vehicles being destroyed by this mob. And I think the leaders in Minnesota, Fry, Walz, Ellison, others, are walking a very thin line with their rhetoric, flirting with the incitement of insurrection, which is a word that's starting to be used. And the president is thinking about declaring this. Essentially, they call ICE a threat to the people. They say ICE is causing chaos in the community. We've had Tim Walz say that ICE is raining trauma down on the people of his state. Or they're saying it's organized brutality. They're saying ICE is kidnapping innocent people. They say all of that, but then they say that people should go out into the streets and record everything and get in their faces, but then they really quickly say, but do so peacefully. And then they just to absolve themselves of what they know is incitement of insurrection, which is exactly what they're doing. They put that up there so they don't end up in jail. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to cause chaos, and they're trying to hold on to immigration policies under Joe Biden that when the country lost its sovereignty for 4 years, they don't want to lose all these people that they've brought in, because those are the only people that are going to keep them in the future in a job, in a political position. How irresponsible and just how despicable it is the way that these people act. And by the way, you try to get them to come on this show. We try to get Jacob Fry to come on this show. He's not going to come on this show.
No, and Rob, you make a great point, right? You look at what ICE is actually doing. Look what brought us out there. I kind of said it earlier. We've had 470 criminal illegal aliens re-released back into the community. We have another 1,360 immigration detainers that we know the state's not going to honor on violent criminal aliens. Not just your run-of-the-mill illegal alien. These are people that the state has deemed public safety threats. But we know they're not going to work with us. But look at the fraud. Everyone is now seems to be getting gaslit by the fact that ICE is out there.
Yeah.
To your point, brutality, rounding people up. No, ICE and other federal partners were out there for the billions of taxpayer dollars that were stolen to fund so many criminal enterprises by illegal aliens that the state of Minnesota knew about. And that's what's being lost in this whole situation.
It's exactly right. And that these people are all frauds. It's all pure politics from some of the worst politicians in this country. And this is their Hail Mary. This is Tim Walz's Hail Mary to try and find himself in some kind of 60 years old. He's got to try to find himself a new position. He's got no money. He's got to figure out a way to survive after he loses this governor's seat. So this is what he's trying to do to be a hero in this moment. Real quick, as far as insurrection, the president posting that if these corrupt politicians don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, he's going to institute the Insurrection Act. That's a big move for him, and that's a move that I know his advisors don't want to see him have to make, because that will, of course, weaponize. I think Democrats will be able to weaponize that so effectively, because they will say, look, this is America now. You have the president, having his officers attacking, protesters and jailing them just for peaceful protests. Even though that's all BS, that's what they'll say going into the midterm. So I can tell that they really don't want to have to pull that trigger. At what point do you think they might have to?
Rob, I don't want to get ahead of the president on that, but if you look at the constant chaos we're dealing with, right? Yep. And we're fortunate enough to have Secretary Noem that's given us all the tools available that we need to handle this situation. But you see night after night, we have almost 3,000 federal special agents and officers on the ground there. And we are making significant arrests, significant strides. You're going to see a lot of search warrants, a lot of criminal indictments coming down on the fraud. But we just can't have incidents like this where you have fireworks being thrown at officers, Molotov cocktails, rocks, ice, vehicles being damaged. Yeah. There's a point where it has to come to a stop.
And real quick, these people, are they facing federal charges, the people that are attacking your agents? Because what I'm worried about is that in Minnesota, they're just going to let them go. Ellison doesn't want to charge these people.
No, 100%, Rob. The ones that we are arresting, Homeland Security Investigations, work with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI. We are bringing criminal charges and indictments on all these individuals.
Federal charges. Love to hear that. ICE Director Todd Lyons, good to see you, sir. Thank you. Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.